Hello dear viewers, welcome to Geonodes Daily series where we do something cool in geometry nodes, and also welcome to this 9-part tutorial that will recreate this cool sci-fi generator with everything you see inside here. And in this fourth part we will focus on recreating the piles corridor. In the first part we did the breakable crate. In the second part we created the crate piles. Then we learned in the third part how we can do multiple material assignments to instances in a random controllable fashion. And now we will focus on how to create this corridor. So without duplicating the entire setup, recreating a completely different version, we just duplicated the first one, but also made it look different. As you can see, the two rows don't look the same, even though it's basically the same setup in the back. This is the finished product that you can download for Gumroad if you want to play with this project and learn more stuff and also support this channel. If not, you can subscribe, like the videos, comment on them. All that supports the channel, and I thank you very much for that. As you can see, this project has a lot of parameters exposed. You can do a lot of stuff like controlling the number of crates, controlling the size of the crates, and a lot of more other stuff like the material distribution, as you can see here, and how many piles of crates you have, and a lot of other stuff you can control very easily. So yeah, it's a very cool project. So now back to where we left the last time. We created, like I said, a way to randomize the number of materials on the crates, and that's very cool. And now it's time to turn this single pile into a double pile. So where we want to go to do this, let me save this for a while. Well, it will be nice to still work on instances. So right after assigning the material will be just the place we want to be. So let me quickly just move this aside, so we'll have a room to play with, and that will be making of the piles corridor. So let me take this frame, and I'm gonna rename this make crate piles corridor, so we know what's this module going to do. And in order to do that, if we hover over this output, we have instances. It's gonna be nice to work with them. So let's use another instance on points, and we want to use these instances. And the points, for the points, we will use a mesh line. So that will be the first part, how to duplicate the geometry. Let me plug this one here, and as soon as we do this, we can see we have this mess, because we have, first of all, too many counts here. We just want 2, so let's do this on 2. And we also want to control the placing. We don't want to stack them on top of each other. We would like them to go this way on the y-axis. So let's do z0, and this, let's put some value, and this will control just how wide the corridor is. So let's quickly expose this value. We will need a vector combine node, plug it here, and connect it to our offset. And this value we can expose it by using this group input, for example, Control C, Control V, this way it's not going to stay in that frame. We can put it here and we can expose the Y value, and let's call that, we go to N panel, group, and we'll call this corridor width. And let's give it a default value of, let's say, 3. Excellent. And we want 0 as a minimum and maximum, let's say 10. You can play with these values any way you want. So closing this panel and doing this backspace over this value, we get the default value. And we will going to leave it like this for now. But as you can see, everything looks identical because, of course, it's just duplicated geometry. So this is where the interesting part comes into play. By the way, if you want to hide unused sockets, you can do a Control H, something like this. It helps clean up the node tree. Okay, so how can we do a randomization on this, make it less obvious that this is a duplication, but without doing too much work? Well, how about rotating one of the roads? So let's do that. We have these instances, so let's go to instance, rotate instances, plug this node here, and let's say we do a rotation on the z-axis because we want to rotate something like this. So let's do a rotation of 180 degrees. And as you can see, both of these instances are rotated. So let's build a mask. Having only 2 instances is very easy to build a mask based on the index. So let's take the index, a compare node, and plug it here. And let's use integer, plug this one, and say if the index is equal to 0, then you rotate it. Otherwise, you leave it alone. And as you can see, we rotated only one of the instances. You can decide which one to rotate. But we have another problem. The rotation is weird. I would like the roads to stay in sync with each other and keep parallel and in line. And that means that we have to play with this pivot point. As you can see, we can do something like this. But I would like to do it in a procedural fashion. So that will be the third point. How can we fix this pivot point? How can we make it right? So if we look at our setup, we see that the X value is controlling the location of the piles, and that's because the pivot point changed based on the spacing of the piles. So that means we kind of have to first of all do a vector combined vector, so we can have access to only this value here. And now we have to get the spacings values that we calculated earlier on. So if we go to where we created the create piles, we have this spacing of the piles, and we have the number of piles here. So let's get these 2 values. I'm gonna go to reroute node, duplicate this one. So we need the number of piles, just how many piles we have here. And that's given by this number here. So we have the number of piles, is to subtract 1 because we start at 0 here when we want to start at 1. And we have this spacing value that we want to use, and that will be this value here, the distance between these values. And once we have this, we can just take these 2 values. Let's do a selection of this, G to move it, and we want to move it here where we play with our piles. So what do we want to do? We have the number of piles and their spacing. So if we do a math and we multiply these two values, and let's plug this one here to see what happens, we get something, but it's not what we want. We see that the last one comes here in line with the first one. So that tells us that we need something like a mean of these values, meaning we have to divide this by 2 to get half of it. So as soon as we do this, if we plug this one here, now we get something more in line to what we needed, as you can see here. We still have an offset. You can leave it like this if you like it. If you don't like this, it's something that you can do here. The problem is here, actually the solution. So if you, instead of using this number, you use this number, you can simply very easily align this perfectly. So it's up to you, what version do you want, a little bit of offset or not. So let's leave it like this, perfectly aligned. There is one more thing that I want to do here, and that is to center everything on origin, given the fact that we will play with this some more and add other elements that we want to keep in sync. So now that we have this fixed up, as you can see, things stay in sync no matter how we play with the values, and stuff don't look exactly the same anymore, which is an easy fix. Let's do something else here, and let's center this on the origin. So how can we do this? We have this corridor width that we want to use. So no matter how wide the corridor is, we will like to make sure that the piles stay center, so they go like something like this. They are equally distant from the origin. And for that, I'm going to use a set position node, plug it here, and then I want to do something with the offset. So let me do something like this, plug it into the offset, and I want to play with this Y value to make sure that I'm centering here, and I want to center it at the value given by this corridor width, but not simple like that. I want to have half of this value. So let's do in utilities, math node, switch this one to divide and divide by 2. And now we can see things are not working right, because we also want to invert this value. And as soon as we do this, we get this nicely arranged piles. So no matter how wide the corridor is, the piles will just play nice and stay put where we want them to go. Excellent. So we finished with this part. What are we going to do in the next part? Well, in the next part, we are going to build the bridge. We'll also respond to this empty, but instead of having a triangle being displaced, we will have rectangles using the same setup that we see here. That's going to be fun to watch, so make sure to stay for that part. Until then, have a nice day and happy blending. And again, thank you very much for supporting this channel by subscribing, liking the videos, commenting, watching, and of course, purchasing the project files from Gumroad. So thank you very much for that. And like I said, have a nice day.